Who are these people?
This was put out that in I don't know if it was a leak or if it was just information that got put out by we'll get to it in a bit, but apparently Oath Keepers, which is a like Proud Boy adjacent, they were around for January 6th, right? Like kind of right-wingy militia group, if that makes sense. That are pretty famous in that regard, but apparently a lot of their rank and file were filled with Department of Homeland Security members. So this is from Brett Wilkins over at Common Dreams. So hundreds of Oath Keepers have worked for DHS in recent years, report finds. This probably represents at the tip of the iceberg as far as federal law enforcement officers that have been involved in or supported the activities of far-right militia groups, said one expert, which we've talked about a lot as well. So, hundreds of Oath Keepers said that they are or were employed by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. A report published Monday found a revelation that comes about 2 weeks after two leaders of the far-right militia were convicted of seditious conspiracy in connection with the January 6th insurrection. Extremism within our government is always alarming, but even more so in a department with a law enforcement and national security nexus like DHS. So in a joint investigation with the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project, the OCCRP, man, they've got to be real busy these days. You know, I think they've been around the water cooler a little too much. They need to get back to some work. There's too much to do at that place. The Project on Government Oversight, again, another group of hard workers, right? Found that more than 300 people on a leaked Oath Keepers membership list described themselves as current or former employees of Department of Homeland Security agencies, including Border Patrol, Coast Guard, Immigrations and Customs informants, and the Secret Service. So yeah, it's ICE. But experts voiced alarm over far-right extremists who, according to DHS, pose the greatest domestic terrorism threat, working in a federal agency responsible for combating extremism. So, somewhere the things don't add up. DHS saying that this is the greatest domestic terrorism threat, right? Far-right extremism, and then a ton of them are part of one of those groups. Like, what do you think is going on there?
I mean, you're not surprised. I mean, it doesn't surprise me, again, considering January 6th, you know, and just the idea, like, a lot, like, I'm just going to say it, like, as more of that stereotype, but a lot of stereotypes, as they say, are based in reality. A lot of cops are right-wingers.
Yes.
You know? So,
yep.
Like, so to me, and Ed in the chat was just kind of like, in the voice of Fry from, what's that show? Futurama. Yeah, shocked. Well, not really that shocked,
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, I'm water's wet.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's just like, no, it doesn't surprise me.
I think it's revealing, we're friends with Convo Couch, who was there at that supposed insurrection, alleged. Right. Which we all know that if that was anywhere near left wing, they wouldn't have made it to the first steps. Like, they got miniguns in the walls, people. Like, we wouldn't have made it.
No, George Floyd, like...
Yes.
You couldn't even... Like, I was there. Like, they had every piece of equipment, excessively so, against the crowds there. You can even get within the plaza of the White House.
No.
So... But these guys, and I say it because, and I've said it on stream before, I was... Like, that was a couple of days before the force to vote protests that
Mm-hmm.
I helped to organize and be a part of. And the Capitol Police was giving us a hard time.
Right.
Even though we had a permit, even though like we were walking around the perimeter of Congress, that we were instructed to do, which to me makes no damn sense, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know, we weren't causing any trouble, but because we stopped at several places, not in Congress office, and we were like across the street from Congress itself, that was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And like they were ready to arrest Jackson Hinkle and Nico and others because according to them, we were not walking, that we were taking our sweet time. You know, they were ready to arrest us then. And it was like, I want to say a group of us at that time at any given point was a group of 30 of us.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were coming after us to talk about Medicare for all, and in light of the squad forcing the vote, but they let this crowd in essentially into the halls of Congress. And funny enough, in hindsight, like, because I applied for the permit, and they asked me, what was happening in DC was no secret. Like, people knew or were expecting this. So, like, I don't want it to make it seem, because like mainstream media feel like, or kind of reports that oftentimes that, oh, like this was sudden. No, it wasn't sudden. Like I knew about it. Like,
well,
but when I was applying for the permit, like they were basically asking me, like, I don't even remember exactly what they asked, but the implication was, are you a part of a group that essentially was going to cause trouble? And I was like,
maybe.
I didn't know how to answer that, but I was kind of like,
hopefully.
But I kind of knew what they were talking about, so I said no. But they knew. They knew, like, we did it, I believe it was January 4th, if I remember correctly. 2 days later, the event happens. They knew. So
yeah. Well, and Convo Couch said then, they continue to say that whole place was full of feds, as they would like to put it. So they let these people in the door. Right. Like this is and partially we're not sure if this is the complete reasoning, but it got easy funding for congressional police.
Yes.
So
and right, yeah. And again, keep in mind, we weren't allowed on the property, like on Congress ground, for folks to vote. We weren't even allowed anywhere near it. We were allowed the perimeter, but even then we couldn't stay there. So
Brett continues, if I go to this, that one active law enforcement official joining militia group is one too many. Mike German, a former undercover FBI agent who has infiltrated white supremacist and far-right extremist groups, just in case you were forgetting that they also did that, told Pogo this probably represents at the tip of the iceberg as far as federal law enforcement officers that have been involved in or supported the activities of far-right militia groups like the Oath Keepers. According to the report, which says, despite its rhetoric opposing government oppression, Oath Keepers is seen by many as hostile to civil liberties and rights. It has deployed armed groups in response to protests against police brutality against black people, such as in Ferguson, Missouri in 2014 and 2015, and at Black Lives Matter protests in 2020. Many protesters and observers saw the Oath Keepers' presence as intimidating and in opposition to calls for police accountability. Several members have left the group because they felt it was too extreme, according to several on the leaked list contracted by the OCCRP and POGO. At least one prominent ex-member has decried racism within its ranks, even though the group's bylaws bars members from discrimination, violence, or hatred towards any person based upon their race, nationality, creed, or color. The new report follows the November 29th conviction of two Oath Keepers, founder Stuart Rhodes and Florida chapter leader Kelly Meggs, on sedition conspiracy charges for their roles in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol by supporters of former President Donald Trump and his, quote, big lie that the 2020 presidential election was stolen. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of confirms a lot of what we were talking about, what we've been talking about, that there's, spooks all over the place in these organizations. Patriot Front is another one that has been known to be like connected with deep state stuff,
Right.
like Proud Boys also. So, Ghost Art said feds infiltrated Standing Rock too. I wouldn't doubt it. So yeah.
No, I think, especially being in this space and even on Twitter, I'm not too concerned about it, but it does make me worry just in the fact like I think right now I have over 2,500 like people sub to me, and I'm sure not sure, fairly positive many of them are feds.
Sure.
Bots, like, so it kind of intimidates me a little bit. Like, I'm still gonna tweet my mess anyway, but it does concern me as far as thinking like who's watching me, what is being reported, will I get suspended or permanently banned, that kind of thing. Like I do think about that, especially in terms of my job, if that ever kind of gets elevated to the point where like my livelihood would be affected. Hopefully not, but I mean, again, what is what, that feds everywhere. So it just kind of, again, it's just not surprising to me. And given and I know this kind of went viral on Twitter, I think today you showed me that clip of the cops, kind of
fucking giant right hand to the guy.
Yeah. Like, do you remember where? I want to say.
I think Nick shared it. If people want to go find that at Socialist MMA.
We can probably do it later, but yeah, like, but a lot of these guys are right wingers.
Yes.
Who very much
ex-military,
ex-military, like the ones who were picked on in high school, whatever else. So having that chip on their shoulder and like feeling now they have power because they have a gun and a badge and seemingly power that they can just do whatever they want with people without any consequence. So yeah, it makes a whole lot of sense to me. So, and I think our audience is smart enough and aware enough that that's the case. But, again, like I feel like, so when, again, it's something very damning when the squad funds Capitol Police a lot more, the ones who allow January 6th to happen, essentially, which makes no damn sense. But then that also kind of relates to our extra story that we reported on regarding Tara Reid. You'll hear more about that tomorrow. It just kind of all relates in terms of their role and like how, in a lot of ways, the Democrats are kind of complicit in a lot of this mess that they seemingly do it in the guise of, oh, we want to protect our nation from X, Y, and Z, whereas many of these people are right wing and they're kind of enabling that.